Are you a sad individual living under a Parisian opera house and dropping chandeliers on people's heads for fun? Well, you may want to stop because that's a crime and get yourself a podcast. How do you do that? Easy. It's with Anchor. Anchor is a totally free app and website, and you can record from your phone or your computer. You don't need fancy smancy equipment. Seriously, I have recorded podcasts from my bathtub while I was bathing. Anchor is free and super easy to use. Anchor has really simple podcasting tools. You sign up and then you start podcasting. It really is that simple. Within an hour of starting my podcast, I was already distributed on Spotify. Now I'm on Spotify, Google Podcasts, Breaker, and Radio Public. So look for the app or the website. The website is anchor.fm, and the app, just go to your friendly local app store and look up Anchor. That's ANCHOR. Happy podcasting! So, hello friends, this is Sarah from the Quite Slutty Breakfast Podcast, and oh boy, this is gonna be a doozy. So, I finished episode 10, which is called The Passenger, and before we thought it was referring to Ford riding around in Bernard's brain, but no, the passengers are people who apparently don't really have free will, but are just engaged in a lifelong struggle to survive. Which is fascinating to me because what the heck is going on with humanity in the show? Okay, here's the thing. If you have a passenger, then you probably have a driver. Am I not correct? So, who's driving? Hopefully, next season will answer that question, or at the very least, acknowledge that question. But for now, let us discuss Season 2, Episode 10 of Westworld. What? What did I just... What? Okay, I think I got part of it, but Elsie... My head hurts. I need to watch it again. So, what you just heard was my reaction immediately after watching the episode last night. I actually did end up watching it again. Like, when I got through it, I actually really, really wanted to watch the entire show just so that I could see it from this new angle, like having all the information, but I'm not going to because that would be ridiculous. But yeah, so I did watch it again, and I'm glad I did because somehow I failed to notice that they dumped Elsie's body when Dolores and Charlotte's body um was smoking. I somehow missed that scene. It's so weird. But yeah, so before, when I watched it before, I assumed that Dolores had shot Elsie, which really made no sense. But no, now we know that it was Charlotte who did it. So cool, very cool. Glad we got that sorted out. So first of all, I'm gonna talk about the things I didn't like, and I want you to understand when I'm talking that I actually really did enjoy this, but there were a few things that were just like, meh. Um, and when I criticize a show, like when I'm really into, like I loved the first season. Yes, it had its flaws, but like as for television, it's like one of the best things I've ever seen. Um, Black Sails would be another one of those. But anyway, so let's go into what I really wasn't into. The time slips. Like, by the end of the show, I realized how much I resented them and how I feel that they held the show back. And it made it a lot more complicated than it needed to be. And I can't help but wondering if that was meant to be a meta commentary on the thing where they said, oh, well, humans are only like 10,250 lines of code. Like, was that intentional? Because honestly, it just really annoyed me because I think that like if they went in like a straight linear line, it would have been so much emotionally impactful because, like, well, in this episode, Dolores dies, and it's like, oh no. But then she's brought back, like, 30 minutes later, and it's like, oh, okay, sure. But, I mean, what if, like, we got the reveal that Bernard shot her, like, I don't know, like 3 episodes ago? And then they reveal she came back now. Like, if that, to me, would have been so cool. But I feel that they biffed it. It made it, like, because, like, once you have all the pieces of the story, it's like, oh, okay, the timeline actually makes perfect sense. It's just not shown in the proper order. And I would love to see, like, a chronological cut of the season, um, like they did for Pulp Fiction. I forgot what it's called. It, like, has a specific name, but I think that that would be really cool. I might actually look for that up on the YouTubes, but they probably wouldn't have it because of copyright, huh? Sucks. But anyway, so another thing I didn't like was something that I touched on um last podcast episode, and I kind of was like, well, let's wait and see what happens. But I made a joke about Maeve, like, Kamehame humming, and yeah, she's pretty much Goku at this point. Um, deaths and everything. Her powers are really inconsistent and confusing. Like, I thought she couldn't access people who were basically awakened to the reality of their situation. And apparently she can, because all the people who are going to the Valley Beyond were awakened, but she could stop them, but she chose to do it at, like, the worst possible moments. Like, they have Clementine with the virus that makes people kill each other. They have her on a horse, and they're following her to these people to stop her, to stop them from getting there. And so Maeve has an access to a mesh network, right? So that these people can find the host, they know where they are. But instead, she's, like, physically looking for her daughter, and, like, why not just send a message to the people saying, hey, looking for this kid, if you let me know, ping me, you know? Like, but no, so she's physically, like, going through these line of people, and then, like, Clementine comes up, and these people are just, like, killing each other, and there's a bloodbath, and Armistice, and Hector, and what's her name? Her name starts with H. The Japanese Doppelbot version of Armistice. Um. Anyway, they all die, and then May finally puts her hand up, and, like, everybody stops. But, I mean, Delos is there, so she gets killed anyway. But anyway, so why didn't she do that before? Like, if she's looking for her daughter, and for some reason, like, I don't know, maybe the network's broken. Maybe they disabled it, and they just didn't say that in the show. Okay, so why not just stop all these people from moving, and while they're frozen, go through them and find your child? Just, why? Just, I want a reason why, because it makes no sense, and it really took me out of what should have been an emotional scene where Maeve's second mother takes her to the Valley Beyond, and Akachetta's there with Kana, which is another thing that really confused me, because as she was in cold storage, she couldn't have physically gotten there. And, like, if people can just be Bluetooth into the Valley Beyond, why do the physical thing? That just, why? I mean, because, like, her file was somewhere. I mean, her data was stored. I thought that it would have been in the cradle and destroyed with that, but apparently not. So, that's just those are things that really bothered me. They're just like mildly nitpicky things that didn't really make a lot of sense to me. But there you go. Not everything's gonna work for everybody. So let's talk about the things that I got right. And I'm pretty happy about this actually. Stubbs is a host, I'm pretty sure, because of the conversation he had with Dolores. He said specifically that he'd been hired by Ford so long ago that he didn't remember when. And at first I was like, oh, okay, that's kind of weird. But then it's like, wait, this dude's like he's my age. I mean, I'm gonna assume that the character is like about the same age as the actor, and I think he's like late 30s, early 40s, like Hemsworth. So, he wouldn't be old enough to not remember being hired by Ford. And Ford, um, Ford was hiring people like 30 years ago, and then like a couple years after that, they were bought off by Delos, so he wouldn't be hiring anybody. So yeah, that was a clue. And plus, in the first season, they were talking, and I think he said the same thing, or was it Bernard? But anyway, that was weird. And then he talks about having a core directive and how his job was to maintain the hosts inside the park, which I thought was interesting. And are we gonna get Stubbs in season 3? I don't know. I hope so. I really like Luke Hemsworth. Another thing is body swap. We have Dolores in Charlotte Hill's body. She actually kills her, which is great because I hated Charlotte. She was just an awful, awful person. And from the beginning, when we see them picked up on the bees by Strand's team, that is Dolores and Charlotte's body, which was fascinating. And like I said, that's why I was like, man, I want to go back and watch this all over again. And knowing that for a fact, because Charlotte just seemed weird. Like, for the character that we saw in season 1, things weren't adding up. But having that confirmed, it was an absolute delight. So, yeah, I'm thrilled about that. And last but certainly not least was The Valley Beyond, was basically like the 100th City of Light. It's basically a VR storage drive that Dolores ends up shooting somewhere where nobody can find the coordinates, so it's possible that we will never see these characters again. Oh yeah, and Teddy ends up there too. How? Oh, that's another thing that actually annoyed me too, because he shot himself in like that old burned out farmhouse, right? And or maybe it was a barn. I don't know what it was. All I remember is that he shot himself and his processor was A-okay. So those things are sturdy AF. But anyway, how did he get there? I mean, she like transferred his marble there, but how did his body get into the sea after it flooded? That doesn't make any sense. But anyway, so I was very happy about those reveals, and it just shows that when the show is on, the writing's good, because those were kind of things that were like, oh, okay, well, those are probably gonna happen. And like, I didn't feel like run around like with the time slip stuff. So that was cool, very cool. I'm very happy with that. I especially like the end with Dolores and Barnard as we see Dolores leave in the rubber boat, and she has 5 little pearls, and one of them turns out to be Bernard. So who are the other ones? And now on the beach, it specifically showed like the faces of people. Like it showed Clementine, she's dead. It showed Emily, who's dead. Maybe is alive. So yeah. And then it showed Armistice. It showed Hector, And did I mention Maeve? Yeah. And Sylvester and Felix are alive. So that's really interesting. And like when I was talking to like see which ones you can salvage, it specifically showed Maeve's face. So I'm pretty sure we're gonna have Tinny Newton in some capacity in season 3, which is great because I love her so much. She was so good in this. But yeah, it was great. I was really happy about how things went. Like, it wasn't as good as season 1, I'll go with that, but that's because, like, I was kind of, like, expecting a lot of twists, and the twists weren't exactly that twisty because they kind of, like, led you to it. Like, in the first season, I suspected there was a time because, like, there was a subtle difference with the signs and things just weren't adding up. But in this one, you kind of expected there to be a time thing because, like, it specifically said, oh, well, you're gonna be in and out of time. So, trying to figure that out was kind of annoying. But I liked it. I'm looking forward to season 3. People have thoughts on season 3. Like, it's either the best or it's terrible. I don't know much about it. I was thinking of watching the trailer on my YouTube channel. Don't know if I'm gonna do that, and I really wish I could have like live blogged the episode, but the fact is, like, with the violence and the fact that it was an hour and a half, it would have been too much. So, I just like, I think it ended really well, and honestly, if the show ended at season 2, I would have been fine. I mean, they have enough threads to pick up a whole story. Like, I mean, who's driving these passengers? Which is intriguing to me. I don't know if the show's gonna go there, but I certainly hope so because that's a fascinating idea. But, like, all the details that they put into the visual is just, like, incredible. Like, the whole thing where they're in the computer and for some reason it's a Logan. And, oh, yeah, I guess I should talk about this. Logan is the computer thing. For some reason, it showed up as him because he was the first person to be imprinted by Delos. So, he was the cornerstone of James Delos, who treated him like crap and apparently just, like, tossed him into a pool and wouldn't let him out until he swam, which is horrible. What an awful, awful man he was. But anyway, so we get confirmation that the last time they talked, they argued, and this I thought was really cool. Logan says something in the memory like, I'm at the bottom. Can you see what I see? Or do you want to see what I see? Or something like that. That's what James Delos said when Bernard and Elsie found him. Like, before Bernard killed him. Which is just like, that was a cool callback. And it's like, that was one of the only ones I noticed. But I want to, like, go through. And I probably will, like, a year from now. And, go through and, like, actually take notes because, like, there's obviously, like, a lot of stuff I missed. But oh, I guess I should talk about Lee. Lee's dead, which is kind of a bummer. But he got his moment. He got to say his speech after being deprived of that so many times. And then they shot him through his holes, which was kind of weird because, like, they gave him the option. Like, they were like, we don't want to shoot you. And, like, he could have been like, okay, don't shoot me. But I guess he wanted to apologize for what he's done, which doesn't really make any sense, but okay. Um, it's like, it was a good scene, but, like, it's one of the things, like, where you dig into it, it's like, why? That doesn't really make any sense at all. But don't get me wrong, I did like this episode. I really enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's can happen next. And I have the hiccups. So I think I'm gonna stop recording. If you want to talk to me about this episode, feel free to message me or like hit me up on Twitter. I have, let's see, I have a Twitter, I have a Tumblr, I obviously have a YouTube account. Just look for the Koi Study Breakfast and you will find me. Alright, have a happy day and keep it fruity. Bye.